What if I told you that the Bible we all know might be missing critical details about creation, the lives of the patriarchs, and even the laws of God himself? The Book of Jubilees, preserved in the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, claims to fill these gaps, revealing hidden stories and offering deeper insight into God's divine plan. But here's the twist. This book was banned from most of the Christian world. Why? In today's video, we'll be diving into the mysterious Book of Jubilees, also known as Little Genesis, and uncovering why its 50 chapters were excluded from the mainstream Christian Bible. This ancient text provides lost details about the Genesis narrative, offering a cosmic perspective on how angels, heavenly time, and hidden commandments were passed down to humanity. But the book doesn't stop there. It boldly claims that the calendar most of the world follows today is fundamentally flawed and insists that time itself was given a sacred structure by God, one that few people adhere to in the modern world. So why was this ancient text rejected by the early church? What secrets does it contain that were considered too controversial for mainstream Christianity? The Book of Jubilees begins with a retelling of the familiar creation story from Genesis, but it delves far deeper into the narrative. According to Jubilees, when God created the world, he didn't merely bring life into being, he established the very framework of time itself, aligning it perfectly with his divine order. This is where the concept of sacred time emerges. Unlike the traditional Gregorian calendar that most of us follow today, Jubilees introduces a meticulously calculated solar calendar, overseen by heavenly angels, designed to govern the cosmic rhythms of the universe. This is not merely about tracking the passing of days, it's about living in complete alignment with God's will. Jubilees asserts that humanity was originally meant to follow this divine calendar, which consists of 364 days divided evenly into 4 seasons, each containing exactly 91 days. This structure ensured that sacred observances, such as the Sabbath and annual festivals, would always fall on their proper days. It's a perfect system, yet one that the world has seemingly abandoned over time. The story of creation in Genesis starts with God forming the earth, but Jubilees expands the narrative significantly. It reveals that before the earth itself was formed, God created angels on the very first day of creation. These angels are described as having crucial roles in the governance of the universe, including the regulation of time, seasons, and natural phenomena. Jubilees emphasizes that these angelic beings were assigned specific duties by God, some managing the movements of celestial bodies like the sun, moon, and stars, while others acted as messengers and guardians of divine law. This idea of angels governing the heavens is not unique to Jubilees, as it appears in other ancient texts. But this book places special focus on how these beings maintain order in the universe. According to Jubilees 2.9, for God ordained that the sun should keep its course according to the divisions of the seasons. These angels, therefore, are not just passive observers. They actively control the very fabric of time itself. Jubilees warns that when humanity falls out of alignment with God's sacred time, chaos inevitably follows, a theme that resonates throughout the book. One of the most contentious claims in the Book of Jubilees is its outright rejection of the lunar calendar, which was widely used by ancient cultures, including the Israelites. Jubilees insists that only the solar calendar is valid because it aligns perfectly with God's divine order. The solar year, according to the book, consists of 364 days divided into 52 exact weeks. Each of the 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, contains precisely 91 days, creating a flawless structure for marking time. This calendar ensures that sacred observances like the Sabbath and festivals always occur on their proper days, year after year. Interestingly, the solar calendar described in Jubilees bears a striking resemblance to the Ethiopian calendar, which is still used today by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. The Ethiopian system divides the year into 12 months of 30 days each, with an additional short month of 5 or 6 days to account for the difference. Could it be that the Ethiopian calendar is one of the last modern systems still reflecting the sacred time described in Jubilees? In contrast, the lunar calendar, which became dominant among the Israelites and many other ancient cultures, is described by Jubilees as a distortion of God's original design. The lunar months are irregular, causing sacred dates and festivals to shift unpredictably over time. Jubilees warns that this deviation from the solar calendar leads to spiritual and societal disorder. In Jubilees 6:37 it states, "There will be those who will surely make observations of the moon, but they will disturb the seasons and make an abominable day the day of testimony." For Jubilees, following the lunar calendar is not just a minor error. It represents a direct act of disobedience to God's will. The book strongly suggests that by returning to the solar calendar, humanity could realign itself with the divine rhythms set in motion at the creation of the world. The Book of Jubilees also reaffirms the traditional 6-day creation narrative found in Genesis, but adds significant detail about the first Sabbath. According to Jubilees, God didn't merely rest on the seventh day, He sanctified it as a divine institution, an eternal law meant for both humans and angels. The Sabbath, in this context, becomes the foundation of sacred time, a day set apart at the very beginning of creation and intended to be observed forever. Jubilees portrays the Sabbath as more than just a weekly observance. It's a cosmic principle that governs the larger framework of time itself. This includes the Jubilee cycles of 49 years, which are described as sacred periods of rest, release, and renewal. These cycles are designed to realign the world with God's order, offering humanity a chance to return to a state of harmony with the divine. Through its detailed account of creation, the sacred calendar, and the roles of angels, the Book of Jubilees presents a unique and profound vision of the universe, one that challenges the mainstream narratives we've grown accustomed to. But why was such a detailed and structured text rejected by the early church? Could its insights into sacred time and divine order have been too controversial? Or did it simply pose a challenge to the authority of established religious institutions? As we continue exploring, the answers may surprise. Your renewal for the land, the people, and even the angelic realm. For God sanctified the seventh day and blessed it for all eternity, marking it as a symbol of holiness for all His creation. Jubilees 2:21. This profound emphasis on the Sabbath as an everlasting law demonstrates that the Book of Jubilees does more than retell the Genesis narrative. It reveals the hidden significance of the cycles of time that govern all of existence. The Book of Jubilees tells us that Adam was created on the sixth day, just as described in Genesis, but it adds an extraordinary depth to his story. According to Jubilees, immediately after creating Adam, God gave him explicit commandments, laws that encompass the observance of the Sabbath, purity regulations, and rules concerning marriage and worship. These commandments, conveyed by angelic beings, were part of the eternal covenant God made with humanity, starting with Adam and his descendants. While Genesis portrays God interacting directly with Adam, Jubilees introduces the angels, specifically the angels of the presence, as mediators who instruct Adam in the ways of holiness, sacrifice, and moral conduct. The book even provides intricate details about how Adam named the animals. On the sixth day of the second week, according to God's word, all beasts, cattle, birds, and creatures that move upon the earth or in the waters were brought before Adam to be named according to their kinds, Jubilees 3:1-2. Doom, this angelic involvement, reinforces the notion that God's laws are not human constructs, but are deeply intertwined with the heavenly order. These angels made it clear to Adam that observing God's commandments was an eternal covenant, binding humanity to the divine rhythm observed in the celestial realm. This raises a compelling question. Could it be that the laws given to Adam by God, through the angels, predate Moses' 10 commandments? If so, what might these ancient laws reveal about humanity's original relationship with God? After the fall of Adam and Eve, the Book of Jubilees sheds new light on the story of their children Cain and Abel. While Genesis recounts the murder of Abel by Cain, Jubilees provides a richer context, exploring the aftermath of this first grave sin. Cain's act is portrayed as a pivotal breach of God's law, one that reverberates through humanity, introducing spiritual and moral corruption. Yet despite Cain's banishment, the righteous lineage of humanity is preserved through Seth, Adam's third son. Jubilees emphasizes Seth's role as a figure of faithfulness, entrusted with upholding the divine laws handed down by the angels. This sets the stage for future descendants, such as Noah, to continue the covenant with God. The story of Noah and the flood, familiar to many from Genesis, is given a profound expansion in the Book of Jubilees. The focus is not merely on Noah's survival, but on the covenant God establishes with him afterward, a covenant rooted in purity, righteousness, and unwavering adherence to God's commandments. Jubilees delves deeply into the corruption of the pre-flood world, particularly highlighting the Nephilim, the offspring of fallen angels and human women. While Genesis 6:1-4 offers a brief mention of the Nephilim, Jubilees expands this narrative, describing how these giants contributed to the widespread wickedness that provoked God to cleanse the earth. And lawlessness increased on the earth, and all flesh corrupted its way. Humans, cattle, beasts, and birds all deviated from their orders and began to devour one another. Jubilees 5:2. This moral decay wasn't limited to human sin, but was exacerbated by the fallen angels, introducing forbidden knowledge, disrupting the natural order. God's response was decisive. The flood wiped out the corruption, preserving only Noah and his family due to their righteousness. After the flood, Jubilees reveals that God's promise never to destroy the earth again was accompanied by a new covenant with Noah, emphasizing laws of purity and sacrifice. These laws, later formalized in the Mosaic Law, were already being practiced by Noah as part of his covenant with God. Key details include Noah's observance of the Sabbath and adherence to laws concerning sacrifice and spiritual purity. This covenant marked a fresh beginning for humanity while reinforcing the necessity of obedience to God's laws to prevent further judgment. Noah's adherence to sacrificial laws, which involved offering burnt sacrifices and maintaining spiritual and physical purity, underscored the continuity of divine expectations from Adam to his descendants. When we meet Abraham in Genesis 12, he is already being called by God to leave his homeland for Canaan. But the Book of Jubilees takes us deeper into Abraham's story, offering a glimpse into his early life. According to Jubilees, Abraham grew up in a household steeped in idolatry, with his father, Terah, worshipping false gods. This context, absent from Genesis, paints a vivid picture of a young Abraham who, surrounded by paganism, chooses to reject the practices of his culture in favor of the one true God. And he said, "My father, tell me, what is this idol you worship?" Jubilees 12:1. This profound moment sets Abraham apart as a seeker of truth, willing to defy societal norms to pursue a relationship with God. His rejection of idolatry and commitment to God's covenant serve as the foundation for his later role as the father of nations. The additional insights provided by the Book of Jubilees offer a richer, more intricate understanding of these familiar biblical narratives. From Adam's covenant, and the laws passed through angels to Noah's righteous obedience and Abraham's rejection of idolatry, Jubilees ties humanity's story to a broader cosmic framework. By introducing angelic mediators, emphasizing the Sabbath as a cornerstone of sacred time, and detailing the spiritual consequences of disobedience, Jubilees invites us to explore a deeper dimension of biblical history. But these revelations also raise critical questions. Why were these details excluded from the mainstream Bible? Were they too controversial or at odds with established religious doctrines? And what can we learn today from revisiting these ancient laws and covenants? Let us know in the comments if you'd like to dive further into the ancient commandments and explore how they shape our understanding of faith and divine order. The Book of Jubilees continues to challenge us to look beyond the surface, uncovering the hidden threads that connect humanity to the heavens. Abraham's encounter with idolatry takes a dramatic turn in the Book of Jubilees. While Genesis emphasizes Abraham's obedience to God's call, Jubilees portrays him as a revolutionary figure. In a bold act of defiance, Abraham destroys the idols in his father's house, burning them before the eyes of onlookers and fleeing into the wilderness. Jubilees 11:16-17. This act of spiritual rebellion is a defining moment, setting the stage for his role as the father of a chosen people who would reject pagan practices and dedicate themselves to God's divine laws. Jubilees highlights Abraham as a trailblazer, standing firm against the pervasive idolatry of his time, a stance that resonates throughout his covenant journey with God. A striking difference between Genesis and Jubilees is the depiction of Abraham's relationship with divine laws. In Genesis, Abraham's obedience is tied primarily to the covenant of circumcision, Genesis 17, but Jubilees presents him as a figure already observing divine laws long before Moses. According to Jubilees, Abraham was taught these commandments by angels, laws that were part of a heavenly order established from creation. These included the Sabbath, purity laws, and sacrificial practices. Jubilees asserts that these laws were inscribed on the heavenly tablets, a celestial blueprint for the governance of both humans and angels. And he was taught by the angels concerning the things written in the tablets of heaven, Jubilees 12:25. This perspective elevates Abraham from a figure of personal faith to a participant in a cosmic plan, aligning his actions with eternal laws that transcend time. The covenant of circumcision, a pivotal moment in Abraham's story, is also expanded in Jubilees. While Genesis presents it as a symbol of the covenant between God and Abraham's descendants, Jubilees frames it as part of a universal, eternal law written on the heavenly tablets. This law is for all the generations forever, and there is no circumcision of the days, nor passing over one day of the 8 days, for it is an eternal ordinance ordained and written on the heavenly tablets. Jubilees 15:25. Circumcision is portrayed not merely as a physical act, but as a profound alignment with the cosmic laws that govern creation, further emphasizing its spiritual significance in the divine plan. The binding of Isaac, Genesis 22:1-19, a cornerstone of Abraham's narrative, takes on new dimensions in Jubilees. The book reveals that the test of Abraham's faith was instigated by Master, a figure associated with Satan who sought to challenge Abraham's righteousness. This cosmic element adds a layer of spiritual warfare to the narrative. Master represents the forces of evil attempting to undermine the righteous, and God allows the test to demonstrate Abraham's unwavering faith. Jubilees also introduces angelic intervention, with God commanding through angels that Isaac's life be spared. And the Lord said, "Command him not to lay his hand on the lad, nor do anything to him, for now I have shown that he fears the Lord." Jubilees 18:10. This reframing positions the story within a larger cosmic struggle between good and evil, emphasizing Abraham's faith as a triumph over the temptations of darkness. The rivalry between Jacob and Esau, introduced in Genesis 25:23, is also expanded in Jubilees. While Genesis focuses on the personal dynamics of the brothers, Jubilees presents their conflict as part of a divine plan. Jacob is portrayed as chosen from birth to inherit the covenant, while Esau is predestined to stray from God's path. The Lord said unto her, "Two nations shall be divided from your womb, and one nation shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger." Jubilees 19-13. Jubilees goes further, revealing that Isaac and Rebekah were given divine knowledge about Esau's rebellious nature and the eventual opposition of his descendants to Israel. This perspective casts Jacob's actions, although seemingly deceptive, as part of fulfilling a preordained divine purpose. One of the most profound distinctions in Jubilees is its consistent emphasis on predestination and cosmic order. Unlike Genesis, which often focuses on individual agency and personal faith, Jubilees situates the patriarchs within a grand, preordained narrative orchestrated by divine law. From Abraham's destruction of idols to Jacob's inheritance of the birthright, every act is aligned with the heavenly tablet's decrees. These narratives suggest that the patriarchs were not merely responding to God's commands, but were fulfilling roles meticulously designed within a celestial framework. This deeper cosmic context raises intriguing questions. Were these additional layers of detail excluded from the mainstream Bible to simplify its message, or were they considered too controversial for early theological debates? By exploring texts like Jubilees, we uncover a more intricate view of faith, one that intertwines human actions with divine, angelic, and cosmic dimensions. Let us know in the comments if you'd like to explore further insights from the Book of Jubilees and its profound impact on understanding biblical history. Esau, in the Book of Jubilees, is depicted as far more than a brother who loses his birthright. Jubilees portrays him as the progenitor of a line of rebellion against God's chosen people. His descendants are described as a nation that rises in opposition to Israel, fulfilling the prophecy that the elder will serve the younger. Indeed, while Genesis briefly mentions Esau's hostility toward Jacob after losing his birthright and blessing, Genesis 27:41, Jubilees expands on this theme, illustrating how Esau's descendants would evolve into a nation, Edom, that persistently opposes Jacob's lineage, the future Israelites. And Esau took his wives and his sons and all that he had, and went up to the hill country of Seir and lived there. And Esau became a nation, and they oppressed Jacob's descendants. Jubilees 37:1. This dynamic reflects a broader cosmic conflict central to Jubilees, the eternal struggle between righteousness, represented by Jacob, and rebellion, embodied by Esau. One of the pivotal moments in Jacob's life is receiving Isaac's blessing, which establishes him as the father of the 12 tribes of Israel, Genesis 27. Jubilees, however, deepens this narrative, presenting the blessing as more than a familial or tribal honor. According to Jubilees, Jacob receives not only the patriarchal blessing, but also a continuation of the divine laws passed down from Abraham. These laws, covering the Sabbath, purity, and the sacred calendar, are described as eternal commandments inscribed on the heavenly tablets. And the Lord appeared to him by night and said, "I am the Lord God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon you are sleeping I give to you and your seed shall be as the stars of heaven." Jubilees 27:23. This divine encounter underscores Jacob's role as the custodian of these sacred laws, linking his legacy directly to the cosmic order that governs both heaven and earth. Jubilees also emphasizes the prophetic significance of Jacob's rivalry with Esau. While Genesis focuses on their personal conflict, Jubilees extends this struggle into a prophetic vision of their descendants. The book asserts that Esau's lineage, Edom, would become adversaries of Israel, symbolizing rebellion against God's divine plan. From that day, the enmity between the nations remained, Jubilees 45:3. This enduring conflict transcends territorial disputes, representing a spiritual battle between good and evil. Esau's descendants embody opposition to God's chosen people, contributing to Jubilees' apocalyptic themes, where the struggle between Jacob's righteous lineage and Esau's rebellious one becomes a critical element in the cosmic war that shapes biblical history and eschatology. The 12 sons of Jacob, the forefathers of Israel's tribes, are introduced in Genesis through the relationships between Jacob and his wives, Leah and Rachel, and their maidservants. Jubilees adds a unique dimension by framing the births of these sons as events preordained by God. Each son's birth is aligned with the sacred calendar, reinforcing the idea that their lives and roles were part of a divine plan inscribed on the heavenly tablets. And Jacob's wives and maidservants gave birth to his 12 sons, each according to the time set by the Lord, and their destinies were written on the heavenly tablets. Jubilees 28:12. While Genesis narrates the circumstances surrounding their births, Jubilees emphasizes their births as acts of divine timing, further integrating the tribes of Israel into the grand cosmic design. A critical moment in Genesis is Reuben's sin, which costs him his status as Jacob's firstborn, Genesis 35:22. Jubilees expands on this incident, presenting it as a profound spiritual transgression rather than merely a personal failing. Reuben's actions are framed as a violation of divine laws that had been established since the beginning. This spiritual breach disqualifies Reuben from leading the tribes and paves the way for Judah and Levi to rise to prominence. Judah, the fourth son, assumes the role of tribal leader and ancestor of Israel's kings, while Levi's lineage is entrusted with priesthood and the guardianship of God's laws. Jubilees portrays these shifts in tribal hierarchy as part of a divine order, rather than the consequences of human error alone. Through the lens of Jubilees, Jacob's story, including his blessing, the births of his sons and his descendants' destinies, is not just about the origins of Israel, but a narrative woven into a greater cosmic framework. The emphasis on predestination and divine laws highlights the patriarchs as participants in a celestial plan that governs both humanity and the heavens. The rivalry between Jacob and Esau, the rise of Judah and Levi, and the birth of the 12 tribes are all positioned as essential components of this cosmic design. Jubilees consistently reinforces the idea that these events are not random or solely based on human choices. They are meticulously aligned with God's eternal commandments, pre-written on the heavenly tablets. This divine orchestration extends beyond individual stories to encompass the destinies of nations. Jubilees connects the patriarchal narratives to the broader themes of spiritual warfare, apocalyptic visions, and the ultimate triumph of divine order over rebellion. The book transforms familiar Genesis accounts into a deeper exploration of faith, law, and cosmic purpose, offering insights that challenge and enrich our understanding of biblical history. Let us know in the comments if you'd like to explore more about the intricate prophecies and cosmic connections found in the Book of Jubilees. Reuben's loss of his status as the firstborn due to his transgression is a key turning point in the Book of Jubilees, aligning directly with the concept of divine justice and predestination. Unlike Genesis, which mentions Reuben's fall briefly, Genesis 49:3-4, Jubilees places significant emphasis on how this event fits into the cosmic plan. Because of his sin, the firstborn Reuben was not reckoned in the inheritance, but Judah was chosen as the prince over his brothers and Levi for the priesthood forever. Jubilees 33:10. Judah's rise as the tribal leader and Levi's establishment as the priestly line are framed as essential parts of God's eternal law. These shifts are not seen as mere consequences of human decisions, but as manifestations of a divine order pre-written on the heavenly tablets. Levi's designation as the head of the priestly line is particularly emphasized in Jubilees. While the roles of Moses and Aaron as Levites are discussed in Genesis and Exodus, Exodus 28, Jubilees extends Levi's significance by asserting that his priestly duties were established long before the formalization of the Levitical priesthood. Levi was set apart for the priesthood forever, to offer sacrifices and to mediate between the people and the Lord, for it was ordained on the heavenly tablets. Jubilees 32:17. This eternal mandate positions Levi as a bridge between heaven and earth, ensuring that divine laws are maintained and upheld. His responsibilities transcend the historical circumstances of Mount Sinai, embedding the Levitical priesthood into a timeless cosmic framework. The 12 tribes of Israel, originating from Jacob's sons, are portrayed in Jubilees as much more than inheritors of land. In Genesis, the tribes are primarily connected to the narrative of settling in the Promised Land, but Jubilees elevates their role to that of spiritual guardians tasked with preserving God's commandments. These are the laws for your sons and their descendants forever, written on the heavenly tablets, that they may walk in them and live. Jubilees 29:6. Each tribe is assigned a specific role within this divine order, ensuring that the laws passed down from Abraham and Isaac are followed by future generations. This depiction underscores the idea that the tribes were not merely historical entities, but integral components of God's eternal plan for humanity. One of the most striking reinterpretations in Jubilees is the betrayal of Joseph by his brothers. While Genesis portrays this act as motivated by jealousy and familial discord, Genesis 37, Jubilees reframes it as a transgression against God's divine order with far-reaching cosmic implications. His brothers sold Joseph into slavery, and their sin was recorded on the heavenly tablets, for they had transgressed the eternal laws, and it was decreed that their descendants would suffer until they repented for their great sin. Jubilees 34:4-9. This perspective links the betrayal directly to the future suffering of Israel in Egyptian bondage, presenting it as a pivotal moment in God's overarching plan for redemption. The sin of Joseph's brothers, as recorded in the heavenly tablets, ties their actions to the larger narrative of Israel's enslavement and eventual deliverance through the Exodus. Joseph's rise to power in Egypt is another event that Jubilees intricately connects to divine preordination. In Genesis, his ascension is attributed to his wisdom and ability to interpret dreams, Genesis 41, but Jubilees presents it as part of a plan written in the heavenly tablets. It was written on the heavenly tablets that Joseph would rule over Egypt, and through him, the sons of Israel would be saved from famine, but they would also be bound in Egypt for a time. Jubilees 42:2. This cosmic framing emphasizes that Joseph's success was not merely a result of his human abilities, but a fulfillment of his divine destiny. His leadership in Egypt was a necessary step in the divine plan, setting the stage for Israel's bondage and eventual deliverance through miraculous intervention. A unique addition in Jubilees is the involvement of angels in Joseph's journey. While Genesis highlights Joseph's close relationship with God, Jubilees expands this by showing how angelic beings actively guide and protect him. These angels are portrayed as facilitators of God's plan, ensuring that Joseph fulfills his role as a savior for his family and a key figure in Israel's history. This divine intervention aligns with Jubilees' recurring theme that human events are interconnected with a larger cosmic framework. Jubilees consistently emphasizes the heavenly tablets as the source of divine law, portraying every major event as part of a preordained cosmic design. From Reuben's fall to Levi's priesthood, the birth of the 12 tribes, and Joseph's rise in Egypt, the book interweaves these narratives into a unified vision of God's eternal plan. These additional layers of meaning not only deepen the biblical stories, but also challenge readers to consider the broader spiritual implications of the patriarchs' actions. The integration of cosmic elements and divine order in Jubilees provides a fresh perspective on familiar biblical narratives. It transforms individual and familial stories into chapters of a grander plan, emphasizing the interconnectedness of human history with heavenly decrees. If you're intrigued by how Jubilees reinterprets these foundational events, let us know in the comments. There's much more to uncover about this ancient text's profound insights into God's eternal design. The Book of Jubilees presents Joseph's life as intricately guided by divine intervention, with angels actively protecting and leading him toward his destiny. While Genesis highlights Joseph's personal relationship with God through his dreams, Jubilees goes further, describing how angels were sent by God to guard him from harm and ensure he fulfilled his purpose. The Lord sent his angels to guard Joseph on his journey to Egypt, that he might not perish. For his life was precious in the eyes of the Lord, and his path had been written on the heavenly tablets. Jubilees 34:21. This divine protection elevates Joseph's story, framing his experiences not as mere coincidences or luck, but as critical elements in a carefully orchestrated cosmic plan. One of the most significant expansions in Jubilees is the connection between Joseph's life and the eventual Exodus. While Genesis concludes Joseph's role with his family settling in Egypt, Jubilees portrays his life as prophetic, foreshadowing Israel's enslavement and deliverance. Joseph himself is shown to be aware of this future, reassuring his brothers before his death that God would fulfill his promise to bring Israel out of Egypt. "I will die, but God will visit you and bring you up out of this land to the land he swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Fear not, for these things have been written and sealed on the heavenly tablets." Jubilees 46:9. This prophetic element, largely absent from Genesis, underscores Joseph's role as not just a savior of his family, but a participant in God's greater plan of redemption. The enslavement of Israel is portrayed in Jubilees as a preordained event written into the heavenly tablets. Unlike Genesis, where Israel's bondage begins when a new Pharaoh arises who does not know Joseph, Exodus 1:8-14, Jubilees frames this suffering as part of a divine prophecy. It was written on the heavenly tablets that they would be oppressed in Egypt, and that God would bring them out with great power and wonders so that his name would be glorified. Jubilees 48:1. This perspective transforms the narrative from a historical account to a cosmic drama, where Israel's suffering and subsequent deliverance are integral to God's eternal plan. Jubilees also introduces a dimension of spiritual warfare during Israel's enslavement, adding depth to the narrative of the Exodus. The book describes the role of Master, a figure often associated with Satan, in hardening Pharaoh's heart and increasing the Israelites' suffering. The prince of the Master stood against them, seeking to destroy them with hard bondage and to cause them to forsake their faith in the Lord. Jubilees 48:9. This depiction highlights the conflict not only as a struggle between God and Pharaoh, but also as part of a larger cosmic battle between good and evil. The plagues of Egypt, therefore, are not only acts of divine judgment, but also victories in a spiritual war aimed at liberating God's people. A unique contribution of Jubilees is its emphasis on the timing of the Exodus as part of a divine calendar. According to the book, the Exodus was not merely a reaction to Israel's suffering, but a meticulously planned event, aligned with God's sacred timeline. It was written on the heavenly tablets that on the 14th day of the first month at the appointed time, God would bring Israel out of Egypt, for this was the day set apart from the beginning of creation. Jubilees 49:1. This connection to the divine calendar reinforces the idea that the Exodus was a pivotal moment in aligning Israel with God's cosmic order, leading to their reception of the Mosaic Law. Jubilees intertwines the story of the Exodus with the heavenly tablets, suggesting that every aspect from Israel's suffering to their deliverance was preordained. The suffering of the Israelites is framed as a necessary trial, preparing them to receive the laws given at Mount Sinai. The book emphasizes that this deliverance was not just for Israel's benefit, but also to glorify God's name and establish His laws as eternal. This perspective redefines the Exodus as more than a historical or national event. It becomes a spiritual milestone in humanity's alignment with divine order. By adding these layers of angelic intervention, prophetic insight, and cosmic planning, Jubilees transforms Joseph's life, Israel's enslavement, and the Exodus into a grand narrative of spiritual warfare and divine purpose. The integration of the heavenly tablets and the sacred calendar into these events provides a unique lens through which to understand their significance, offering a richer and more interconnected perspective on biblical history. Let us know in the comments if you'd like to explore more about how Jubilees reshapes these foundational stories with its profound cosmic vision. The Book of Jubilees frames the Exodus not merely as a historical event, but as a pivotal moment within the divine cosmic order, intricately tied to a predetermined calendar and universal laws. While Genesis and Exodus recount the Exodus as a liberation of Israel from slavery, Jubilees elevates it to a battle within the spiritual fabric of creation itself. The 10 plagues detailed in Exodus 7-12 are transformed in Jubilees into more than just judgments against Pharaoh. They become symbolic strikes against Egypt's pantheon of false gods and the spiritual forces behind them. The Lord sent the plagues upon Egypt, not only to judge Pharaoh, but to show that the gods of Egypt were nothing before him, for they were false powers unable to stand before the Almighty. Jubilees 48:11. Each plague served to disempower these deities and demonstrate that only the God of Israel had true authority over heaven and earth. In this cosmic framework, Jubilees also introduces Master, a figure often linked to Satan, as a force working behind the scenes to harden Pharaoh's heart and intensify Israel's suffering. This spiritual warfare adds a layer of complexity to the plagues, portraying them not just as natural phenomena or divine punishments, but as acts of divine intervention within a larger battle between good and evil. God's power overwhelms Master and his forces at every turn, ensuring that Israel's deliverance aligns perfectly with the divine timeline preordained on the heavenly tablets. One of the key distinctions in Jubilees is the assertion that the Mosaic Law was not created at Sinai, but predated Moses entirely. According to the text, the laws revealed to Moses were already inscribed on the heavenly tablets, a celestial record of all divine commandments established before the foundation of the world. The law and the testimony were ordained and written on the heavenly tablets, created even before the foundation of the world, so that they might guide all the generations of the children of Israel. Jubilees 6:17. This shifts the perception of the Mosaic Law from a covenant specific to the Israelites to a timeless universal code meant to govern all of creation. While Exodus presents Moses as the first recipient of the law, Jubilees claims that the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, were already observing these commandments long before Moses' time. The Sabbath, dietary restrictions, and even the practice of circumcision are portrayed as eternal laws followed by the righteous since the time of Adam. For Abraham kept the Sabbath, circumcised his sons, and followed the commandments of the Lord that were written on the heavenly tablets, and the law was revealed to him through the angels of God. Jubilees 16:28. This perspective reframes the Mosaic Law not as a new revelation, but as a restoration and formalization of an eternal divine order. Central to Jubilees' interpretation of the law is its emphasis on the cosmic calendar, particularly the observance of sacred times such as the Sabbath, festivals, and Jubilee years. The book insists that the solar calendar, consisting of 364 days, is the divinely ordained method of timekeeping. This calendar ensures that sacred observances fall on their proper days, maintaining alignment with the divine rhythm of the universe. Deviating from this system, Jubilees warns, leads to spiritual disorder. And the Lord spoke to Moses and said, "Write down for Israel the law of the Sabbath and the festivals, for these times are ordained on the heavenly tablets, and you must observe them exactly, lest you fall into error." Jubilees 52. This insistence on the solar calendar contrasts with the traditional Bible, where the importance of timekeeping is noted, but not tied as explicitly to a cosmic framework. Jubilees also extends the scope of the law, portraying it as binding not only for Israel, but for all of creation, including the angelic realm. The text describes angels as keeping the Sabbath and observing God's festivals in heaven, emphasizing that the commandments written on the heavenly tablets are eternal and universal. This portrayal elevates the Mosaic law beyond a covenant for a single nation, presenting it instead as a cosmic blueprint for harmony across heaven and earth. The Exodus itself is intricately tied to this divine order. According to Jubilees, the timing of the Exodus was meticulously preordained, aligning with the sacred calendar. It was written on the heavenly tablets that on the 14th day of the first month at the appointed time, God would bring Israel out of Egypt, for this was the day set apart from the beginning of creation. Jubilees 49:1. This detail emphasizes that the Exodus was not merely a reaction to Israel's suffering, but a fulfillment of a divine plan woven into the fabric of time. Every aspect of Israel's deliverance, from the plagues to the timing of their departure, was in perfect harmony with the cosmic laws governing creation. Jubilees also underscores the importance of the law's role in guiding Israel after their deliverance. While Exodus focuses on the dramatic revelation of the law at Sinai, Jubilees highlights its eternal nature, framing the laws as part of a timeless cosmic order meant to bring humanity into alignment with God's will. Observing these laws, particularly the sacred times, is portrayed as essential for maintaining this harmony. The Book of Jubilees thus reimagines the Exodus, the Mosaic Law, and the cosmic calendar as interconnected elements of a grand spiritual narrative. By rooting these events in the heavenly tablets and the divine calendar, the text elevates familiar biblical accounts into a cosmic drama where human history aligns with eternal laws. This perspective invites readers to see the Mosaic Law not as a historical artifact, but as an enduring, universal framework for understanding God's plan for creation. Let us know in the comments if you'd like to explore more about how Jubilees expands on these themes, offering a deeper insight into the cosmic dimensions of biblical history. The Book of Jubilees presents a vision of the law that transcends earthly boundaries, extending its authority beyond humanity to encompass the spiritual realm. Unlike the traditional Bible, where the law is primarily framed as a covenant between God and Israel, Jubilees emphasizes its eternal nature. The law that was given to Moses on Mount Sinai is eternal and will be observed in heaven and on earth. The angels keep the Sabbath, and the righteous will observe the commandments forever. Jubilees 50:13. This portrayal positions the law as a fundamental component of the universe's fabric, binding both angels and humans to God's cosmic order, ensuring harmony across creation. In Jubilees, Israel's history is not left to chance, but follows a divinely ordained timeline, meticulously recorded on the heavenly tablets. This timeline outlines the rise and fall of nations, the exile and return of Israel, and the final judgment upon the world. Jubilees asserts that all human history, from creation to the end of days, unfolds according to this cosmic schedule. All that will come upon Israel was written on the heavenly tablets, from their rebellion to their redemption, and the times appointed for their deliverance were fixed long ago. Jubilees 23:32. This perspective offers a broader, more deterministic view of Israel's destiny, emphasizing that their suffering and restoration are integral to God's divine plan. Angels play a central role in Jubilees, acting as agents of divine will throughout history and especially in the end times. As the final judgment approaches, angels are described as executing God's justice, separating the righteous from the wicked and gathering God's chosen people. The Lord will send his angels to gather his chosen, and they shall bind the prince of the evil spirits, casting him into the abyss until the time of judgment, when he shall be destroyed forever. Jubilees 23:29. This portrayal of angels as active participants in spiritual warfare adds depth to the apocalyptic vision, illustrating their involvement in both earthly and cosmic battles to ensure the triumph of divine justice. A recurring theme in Jubilees is the prophetic vision of Israel's redemption. Despite their rebellion and exile, the book assures that a time has already been appointed for their restoration and renewal in their covenant with God. This redemption is depicted as more than a political return to the land. It represents a spiritual renewal that aligns Israel with the cosmic plan. The time will come when the children of Israel will turn back to the Lord with all their heart, and he will gather them from the nations and establish them in their land as it was written on the heavenly tablets. Jubilees 23:26. This vision emphasizes purification through tribulation, the re-establishment of the law, and the preparation for the Messianic kingdom. The Messianic kingdom, as described in Jubilees, marks the end of the current age and the beginning of God's eternal rule. In this kingdom, righteousness will prevail, the law will be upheld, and the faithful will inherit the earth. The Lord will establish his kingdom on earth, and the righteous shall rule with him. For the law shall be written on their hearts, and the wicked shall be cast into the lake of fire. Jubilees 50:13. The final judgment involves the complete separation of the righteous and the wicked, with the wicked facing destruction in the lake of fire. Master, the leader of the evil spirits, will be bound and ultimately defeated, ensuring the triumph of good over evil. This apocalyptic vision concludes with the restoration of cosmic order, where creation is aligned with God's eternal laws. Jubilees ties the end times to the fulfillment of the cosmic schedule, emphasizing the restoration of divine harmony. The law, written on the hearts of the righteous, will serve as the foundation of the Messianic kingdom, and the ultimate defeat of evil will usher in an era of eternal peace and justice. If you found this exploration of Jubilees' unique vision of biblical history insightful, please share this video with others interested in uncovering the profound mysteries of ancient texts. By sharing, liking, and subscribing to Deep Bible Stories, you enable us to continue diving into these fascinating insights, bringing the hidden layers of God's eternal plan to light. Join the conversation in the comments, and let's explore these cosmic dimensions of Scripture together.